I'm very excited and a little nervous. I think that everything that we're going to talk about is something very deep, especially, having a brand. I think that we show the highlights of our lives and
Right.
very randomly or seldomly specifically me, do I talk about something so personal
Right.
and get this deep. So I'm excited and hopeful that it's going to be helpful. Again.
Tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice.
Welcome to Bailey and Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. If you're struggling with mental health, we encourage you to speak up and get help. A great place to start is 988. That's the free crisis prevention lifeline. Or you can check out the resources tab at kennedykids.org. If you are in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. Either way, we want you to know that you are not alone and that you don't have to struggle, and speak up, get help. There are resources available to you, and we are here to support you. If you're new around here, I want to introduce you to our host. I am Misty Buck. I am an author and a mental health and performance coach. And my co-hosts are Robert Bailey. He is the president of Rosenhaus Sports, the president of Kennedy Kids Foundation. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time college national champion. He's an NFL record holder, and he's an ESPY winner. And we are also joined by Bailey Brooks Masburn. She is a celebrity wedding and event planner, a former NFL cheerleader, and the executive director of the Kennedy Kids Foundation.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Today we are honored, we are excited to interview the one and only Tatu Baby. You know her as a leading name in the tattoo world, really blazing a trail for so many women who are tattoo artists. She has millions of followers. She's so incredible. I first, dare I say, fell in love with Tatu Baby when she was on Ink Master, but she's also been on shows like Cartel Crew. She has a tattoo shop in Miami, Till the End Tattoos Miami, and she's tattooed many, we're interviewing her. She has tattooed many celebrities, including Dwayne Wade, I think, and a bunch of others. I'll let you talk to us about that. But she's really here today to talk to us about mental health and how that has played such an important role in her life. And so with that, Tatu Baby, we want to welcome you to the show and thank you for taking the time to be with here to talk about such an important topic.
Thank you guys for having me.
Glad to have you. I have one tattoo on my body that I've done my entire life. And the one person that did it was Tatu Baby.
Yes.
That says a lot.
That says a lot.
Yes. One tattoo. I'm not a big tattoo person, but I wanted to get a tattoo to represent my daughter. And I went to Tatu Baby and she took care of me, and I appreciate her for that. It was a special moment in my life, and it was good to have her be a part of it. So I'm glad now that we've gone full circle. Now I'm interviewing her on our podcast. So welcome, Tatu Baby, and thank you.
I'm very excited and a little nervous. I think that everything that we're going to talk about is something very deep, especially, having a brand. I think that we show the highlights of our lives and
Right.
very randomly or seldomly specifically me, do I talk about something so personal
Right.
and get this deep. So I'm excited and hopeful that it's going to be helpful for
Well,
somebody there.
well, this is a podcast for mental health. We support Kennedy Kids Foundation, which our mission is to bring awareness for mental health to young teens and suicide prevention. And so we use this platform to highlight and bring awareness to celebrities and people who are known in the public what they have gone through in their life and how they have fought through it, just to encourage our youth really to keep fighting and understand they're not in this fight alone. All of us have had trauma in our lives at some point, and that leads to some mental health issues. And the only way to really help anyone is to talk about it. If you keep it inside, then how does another young woman relate to you, to help her mental health if she doesn't know that you've gone through something? Sometimes that's what it takes for them to help themselves, is to hear that their favorite person, favorite tattoo artist, favorite singer, favorite athlete has gone through something and made it through, and it gives them the strength. So I'm glad you're on. And again, this is not a space to take you back to a place where you feel is not a healthy place for you, but it's to take you to a place where you feel that you can help someone else, and mainly a young teen, a young female or male that really looks up to you. So we're gonna get started, and again, whatever you say, we know it's from your heart, and we respect you, and we're excited to hear, what's happened in your life and how you fought through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we'll just kind of, I guess, officially kick off the first question. And talk to us about a time when you realized the importance of mental health and what it really means.
Um, it took a very long time for me to fully understand. Um, I'm actually still trying to fully understand it, but to grasp a little bit at least of what mental health is, because I didn't truly see the effect of mental health until I saw my now husband battling through his mental health journey. Um, it wasn't until that moment that I had to, and when I tell this story, I tell this to friends or personal people that I know in my life. I always explain I've been through a lot of hard times in my life. Um, since I was born, I've, lost my father. We moved to Miami, so many different things. But my concept of mental health was always, and I'm ashamed to say this, but I always used to say, man, that's in your head. Toughen it out, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, and I got hit with the reality of this until I fell in love with an amazing man, and I saw him battling what the reality of mental health was. That's when it opened my eyes. It showed me how uneducated or uninformed I was for so many years. It taught me a lot of sympathy and empathy for anyone battling with mental health. And it pushed me to try and do as much research as I could so I can help my husband through his tough time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Family and close friends play a tremendous role in the person that's going through the mental health journey. Most of the time, if that person doesn't recognize the family and close friends as people that they can talk to, it leaves them in a very lonely place. And so I
Absolutely.
understand, um, I understand what you're saying. But on the other hand, it also brings you into a space as that close person or family member, brings you into a very um, new relationship with yourself, because now you have to reflect on your mental health as you're helping your partner go through their journey. And then sometimes it even brings back memories of stuff that happened in your life, because mental health, and Misty may be able to talk about this, but a lot of mental health is is connected to some particular trauma that happened in the past, or traumas that has
Yes.
happened in the past, and it has really come out years later, right? Manifested itself, and years later, you're realizing that you're going through something, and it's just because you haven't dealt with a particular trauma. Since you've gone through some stuff personally yourself, as well as have your husband go through this, I'm sure that there's been some a little bit of a mental journey for you in terms of your reflection and in terms of what you're doing now. What have you done to help yourself get through that? Because you have to take care of yourself also in order for you to take care of your husband. So what have you
Absolutely.
done in the interim that has helped you get through your journey?
Um, Through all my journey in life, and I do have very traumatic moments that, it's sometimes still even haunt me in my dreams. But my reaction or my response to a lot of that is kind of just shaking it off and pushing and moving forward. Um, a lot of the way that I coped or helped heal through a lot of the things that I've been through is also understandment. I think that sometimes when things happen to you, you take it so personal and you think something is wrong with you, when the reality is life is tough, and sometimes things happen for many different reasons. And it doesn't mean that you're less of anything because it's happening in your life. And I think that that is a certain big part of mental health, because how you mentioned, a lot of times you feel alone. And that is a huge weight to carry on your shoulders, because the world and the tough times in life is, it's a very heavy burden to carry.
Right,
So I helped cope and heal through a lot is through reflecting and understanding, and reflecting that it wasn't that I was something happened because I was deserving of it or any less of it. It's just sometimes things in life happen. People have different journeys, and sometimes you cross paths, and it will affect your life, but you have to heal, understand it, and know that it's something that happened in your life, but it's not part of you or who you are.
right.
Yeah, is that something that you figured out that because it's a very wise approach
Hmm.
um, that really, really is very helpful, right? And I don't think everyone necessarily has that perspective. There's been times in my
Right.
life where I take things way too personally, and then I need to
Yeah.
kind of remind myself of the things that you're saying. So,
It's like the
um,
positive thoughts, Misty, you talked about that in the past, like, you
yeah,
know, exchanging the thoughts in your head for positive thoughts.
yeah, like well, just not allowing yourself to kind of go down that hole, right? Of just saying like, okay, this is kind of like what you're saying, tattoo baby, like this is happening. It's not personal to me. It's part of life. What do I need to do to understand, reflect, let go, and move forward? Right.
Yes.
So, where did you learn these skills at? Is it just through experience, or have you worked with somebody to help
I
you?
think through time and being a mother. I think
Mm,
when you're a mother, you don't you're not just living your life for yourself. You're living life for another little human being that's looking up to you. And
Right,
I know that a lot of the things that I went through in my life, I want to make sure my son has as healthy as a childhood as possible. And it'll be hard, but it starts a lot with us as the parents.
right,
And I didn't want a lot of, because a lot of things are, I don't know how you would word this, um generational type of traumas. Like
right.
something happened to my
right,
grandmother and she transferred it to my mom, and then my
right,
mom, breaking generational trauma, um by acknowledging what's going on, and seeing how can I move forward from this in a healthy way so I can be a better parent for my child, so I can give my child a healthier upbringing.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part of parenting because someone was like asking me that doesn't have kids the other day. It's like, well, the hardest part has to be, I don't know if it was like the schedule or whatever. And I was like, no, the hardest part to me is being the best version of myself, right? To like be able to help
Absolutely.
my son. Like it's recognizing like, okay, how do I want to react to this? What do I want him to learn
Right.
from me? And constantly that self-check, right? I think that's super
Absolutely.
challenging.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm Latina, so coming from Latina parents, we could be pretty explosive. And this is just like one little example of like we're running late and we're like, oh my God, we're running late for school. Oh my God, oh my God. And children are sponges. So
Right.
they're not learning just what you're teaching them, but what you're showing them.
Mhm.
So seeing your mom like freaking out because you're running late, then they learn to cope with running late in the same way. So
Right.
that is for a great example of one thing that I try to like catch myself is like, okay, we're running late and
Right.
let's handle this, as patient and as wise as possible to get to where we got to get to or do what we have to do
I'm
without getting so emotional.
Mhm.
I'm so proud of you for saying that, to just recognize that. A lot of people don't even understand that that moment is also traumatic to your child.
Absolutely.
Taking something and turning it into a traumatic moment, right? Because when you just running late, when you turn that into something that bigger than what it is, all of a sudden your child connects running late with this huge traumatic moment, right? And then when they grow up and their kids are running late, they react to it the same way the parents react
Exactly.
to it. So I believe really, we should never yell at our kids. We should never raise our voices. I think moving for the old back in the day, hey, you got to beat it into your child. You got to yell at them. It's really among in the Black community where these parents are super super aggressive, right? In my household, my mom was she laid it
Mhm.
down, right? Like, my
and
mom
I,
laid
and
it down.
that's the hard
Right.
part.
Oh yeah, but if I didn't come inside, right? If she said come inside and 10 minutes went by and I didn't come inside, I knew if my friends were out there, they were gonna see me get embarrassed. And so, I then grew up. I grew up and then all of a sudden I'm displaying the same behavior to my kids, right?
Yes.
Come inside. They don't come inside. Hey, my mom did it this way. I turned out successful. I'm gonna do it that way. But it's a different society, and I think really every moment, every day is an opportunity to either heal the people around you, like your children, or it's an opportunity for you to, interject trauma into their life.
Yes.
What do you choose as a parent? You know what I'm saying? But the next question I have for you is, with all that you've said in terms of kind of like self reflecting, self healing, have you ever thought about, you know, getting some therapy, talking to a therapist, and learning some of the tools that from them that can help you and also help you be a different parent in terms of raising your child?
Very interesting you say that because that is definitely on my to-do list.
Right,
I just my schedule has been so crazy. There's been so much going on, but with everything that has transpired these past years in my life, it's something that I realize more and more would be so beneficial in my life to
right,
have someone to talk to and understand more. You never finish learning. You never
right.
finish understanding things. So it's definitely one thing that I want to do and I encourage people to do.
I think everyone, and then Misty, you could probably answer this, being this, the professional. I think everyone should speak to a therapist. Everyone. I think every person in this world has gone through trauma. It may be a different type of trauma, different level of trauma, but I think everyone should have a therapist and someone they can talk to and learn some techniques and tools to help them with their mental health. What do you think about that, Misty?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you on that 100 million% because even if you don't ever experience a mental illness in your life, like depression, anxiety, or whatever it might be, you're going to experience stress. You're going to have
Right.
emotions because you're a human being. So you're going to have negative times and hard times and challenges because you're a human being. So having a place and a person to help you, we're often so afraid of like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody for different reasons. But bringing that up and talking about it, having a place that's just for you and that's really confidential will actually help you moving forward, right? It helps you feel better. It helps you manage stress better. It helps give you a space where you're like, okay, at least once a week or whatever it is, like here's a space that's really just for me,
Hmm.
Right.
right? For somebody to really hear me, who's not in my life, who's not going to judge me, that I can just spill my shit and say what I need to say and work forward from there. And I think that there's an advantage to that for everybody personally.
100%. Tattoo baby. I want to kind of move on to your, what you do in your career as a woman. I know in your industry is heavily man driven, right? Male driven
Yes.
industry. You're like, for me, one of the top females in your industry in terms of, tattooing people and celebrities. How has that been as a female, coming into the business, for you many years ago, as a teenager, really, and how has it changed over time? Has it been good? Has it bad? Has it been bad? Has it been a very stressful process for you, just trying to get the recognition and the respect that
Yes.
the men get? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would say that the beginning of my career was very tough and very challenging. I I decided to do tattoos as a hobby when I was 14 years old. So, in this time, there was no tattoo TV shows. There was very little education on tattoos. It's something that I just did on friends for fun. I was
Right.
young. I had a homemade
I could tell
tattoo
you,
machine.
I could tell you really quick, the fact that you said you started doing tattoos at 14 years old, the image that came into my head was like the movie Friday, and there was like these tough girls, and they were
Yeah.
like, let's go do tattoos, so it gives us
Well,
that image.
that was me.
Yeah, that's what
That was
I'm
me.
trying to bring that to the viewers.
I
Go ahead.
was I was a big tomboy. I was young. Like I said, times were so different back then. There was no education on tattoos. You were just young, and you just make these crazy decisions sometimes and get a tattoo. It wasn't until I was 18 years old that I said that I wanted to do that. I thought about tattooing professionally as a long-term career.
Right,
I actually started going to school for computer animation. I
Oh,
wanted to work
wow.
for Disney as for Pixar, creating like Toy Story movies and the characters. I've always had a passion for art, but the one thing about tattooing compared to all art mediums is there's no eraser. You have
right,
one chance to do it correctly. And I'm a person like I have a very excuse me. I have a very persevering character. I always choose what's harder and what's more challenging. And tattooing, like I said, it was like every time I tattoo, it's like I'm walking on the edge of a cliff because I only have one opportunity to do it right.
right.
So I knew I wanted to do it, and I knew that I wanted to be one of the best in the world. Was
Wow.
very young and very ambitious,
Wow.
but I was young, I was a woman, I was Latina, and I didn't have a lot of tattoos, piercings, or different colored hair. So
Right.
when I remember I went to South Beach and I had a little portfolio with my drawings to see if, if I even if I could start as an apprentice, start
Right.
somewhere. And nobody in any of the shops that I went into even opened my portfolio. They just looked at me and said, "No, we're not taking anybody in right now."
Wow.
I know. So that goes back to my character where, I just always face challenges, and I was like, "Look, if you're
Was
not
that
going to open the door for me, I'm going to make sure I kick one down, and I'm going to
was
Wow.
was was
do
that
this."
traumatizing? Was that traumatizing to you? Do you remember? You think back?
I would not recall that being traumatizing. I would recall that more like lighting a fire in
Like
me.
motivating.
Motivating.
Yes. Yes, I think that's more how I perceived it, because I knew that it's sometimes there's something inside of you that's very unexplainable, but you have this like idea, or something so deep in your soul that you can't really see physically yet, but you know it's there. And I
Mhm.
knew in my heart those crazy ideas that I was going to be amazing at tattooing, and I said, and I'm going to be world known for this.
Wow.
And it's so easy to reflect back on that now because I accomplished so
Right.
much. But really, at that time, I was just a young girl from West Kendall, Miami, just having these crazy dreams that this was going to happen. So, yeah,
Wow.
it motivated me to go to just make it happen. I
Wow.
believed it was going to happen.
And
When
then I
you
think I read that that at a tattoo convention you won best of the day. Like
Yes.
something like
When
at
you
your
first
first
start,
one or something, right? It was something crazy.
how many
yes, when you
artists were
first
there?
start in your career at the conventions.
Yes.
Oh, a conventions has probably like 100 artists, easy.
Wow. And you
I
were
think
number
so.
one.
I won an award. Yes, when
Wow.
I first started, I competed a lot, and I won a couple of awards.
And how did that help you in your career? In terms of, the direction you wanted to go? Did you see immediate success? Did that help you in terms, did it mentally help you, like, say, hey, I could take this industry, you know what I mean? Like, how did that affect you?
Um, I think that it does give a young artist confidence and more motivation to just keep going and
Right.
to push your limits. Art is something that, one, it's very subjective, and two, it's so broad. There's so many things that you can create. And even now, I'm 37 years old, and I'm still constantly thinking outside the box. Every time I do a tattoo, that's where my mind goes. Okay, if I was in a convention competing, how can I do this tattoo to make sure that it would have a winning chance?
Wow. Every time.
Every time, yes.
Wow.
That's awesome. And
That
then,
I'm
passion
very
and that fire
passionate.
is still there. I mean, that's amazing because sometimes people they reach their goals and then it kind of like fizzles out, but you still got, you know.
you said art is very subjective, which is 100% true. When do you find that when you do a piece, do you are you tough on yourself in terms of, the outcome of that piece, and how does that affect you mentally? Does art give you stress after you during the time you're doing it, and at the end you feel stress, this relief of stress? Like, how does all of that help or not with your personal mental health, just going through that process of trying to be perfect, and then the end result in your mind, is it perfect? Is it not? Would I have won? How does that help or hurt your mental health?
Well, tying in art with mental health, I would like to say that to me, art saved me, because it's definitely something that I've leaned on in the hardest of times. It is very now that I am having this conversation, and if I've talked to a therapist, art is my form of therapy.
Okay.
I've gone through a lot, and I don't know where I would be if I didn't have that outlet in my life. So every time that I do a tattoo, I'm passionate of doing a great job, but it's also this outlet for me where I'm just like, it really calms me, and I feel free, and it helps me feel better.
So does that
But
actually
Right.
help
also,
with? Oh, go
excuse
ahead.
me.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But also with that comes, there's the hard days because I am so passionate and
Right.
competitive in what I do. I'm a very hard critique on myself. And now I'm a teacher, I have apprentices. So I'm also hard on them because there was a time in my tattooing career where I never had somebody that was on top of me and telling me, "Hey, this is wrong. This could be better." It wasn't until I was on the show Ink Master that I had that, and I realized the importance of having that in anything that you decide to do in life. You want to have somebody that can help guide you and tell you when you are doing something wrong.
Right.
So I am hard on critiquing my apprentices' work. Therefore, I'm also hard on myself, and I'm always showing them like I'm not just critiquing you to get better. I critique myself every day. And some days I drop the ball more than others, and those days are hard on me. It does emotionally affects me because I come home and I'm just like staring at my artwork, and I'm like, I wish I could have done this. I should have done that. I can't be doing these type of mistakes this deep in my career. Everything, it is also hard on my shoulders, always keeping this level of perfection because I always want to excel in everything that I do.
Right.
How do you balance that? Because you want to be up here, it's from what I'm hearing, as in your tattoo and as your art, which sounds by the way that actually helps you persevere, that outlet. But you want to be like up here with what you're doing. You want to be up here as a mom, up here as a wife, right? So like how are you balancing all these different buckets of your life that you hold yourself to such a high standard in?
I think that I just came to a conclusion that sometimes I'm going to drop the ball in one thing or the other. And because there's only so much that I can split myself in. I
Right.
do I do have that personality where I want to I want to have my house perfectly clean. I want to cook a perfect meal. I want to do this great tattoo. I want to help my son do better in his reading and writing in school. I want to be a great mom. There's so many things that I want to get done. There's only certain amount of time. So sometimes I just drop the ball in one thing or the other. Sometimes I get stressed about it, and then the next day it's like a new page. Try again.
Right. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that is
Yeah,
really
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, that's awesome. Just listening to you and your journey, you are a very ambitious person, strong. You're a strong female, right? And I want to know, did you have a mentor when you were growing up? Did you have someone that helped you, or did you basically just kind of, paved your own way? You know, I'm. Go ahead.
I think that you're going to learn in life in two ways. Either you're going to listen to somebody's advice or you're going to learn by doing things the wrong way.
That is so great.
Wow, that's
So
the gem of
I
the
gotta
day.
write that one down,
Yeah, we have
tattoo.
to write
I'm
that
writing
one
that
down.
one down. That one may be tattooable.
That's a
yeah,
tattooable quote.
Yes.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, we got
It's
to put that in. You got to put that in, in our IG posts, Misty.
it
That
Yeah.
just
was great.
it
That
is
was
what it
great.
is. I didn't have a mentor in a lot of different things, but I had an idea of where I wanted to go in life. And a lot of it has been by trial and error. So that's why I also value knowledge so much. Now that I'm a teacher, I can teach something in 5 seconds. It took me 5 years to learn.
Right.
And
Wow.
knowledge is the most powerful tool that we can have and carry with us. I think that's how we keep evolving. We learn one thing, we teach it to somebody else, and
Right.
it keeps getting better and better. That's the goal. But no, I didn't have a mentor in a lot of different aspects in my life. So I learned through trial and error.
Wow. That brings me to a memory I had with my son. It must have been a week ago. Every time I pick my son up from school and we're driving, I always use that moment, and it's about a 30-40 minute drive. I always use that time to like drop some knowledge in him. And he said to me, I swear I do. And he said to me, Dad, every time we get in the car, you always have some, some lesson you're teaching me.
Ah,
And I said to him, son, what good am I if I take all of my knowledge into the grave with me and I
right.
don't teach you any of it? I said it means nothing. My goal is to pass everything that I've learned as a kid and as an adult to you now as a kid, so you'll be better than me.
Yeah.
And he goes, wow, I didn't even look at it like that. Okay, Dad, you can keep telling me.
Yeah, there's gonna be a day he's gonna want to get back in that car with you and he can't.
Yeah,
So tell him.
yes, hundred
That's what you
percent.
want.
The reason I use the car is because he can't go anywhere. At home he gets up, he goes in the room, he goes in the kitchen, he goes to the bathroom, he's playing video games, but in the car he's stuck with me for a good 40-45 minutes. And so I use that as a teaching moment. And I promise you, Kat, I do it every single day. I think of what am I going to say to him on the way to pick him up, and then we discuss it. It could be something that came on the news. It could be something that just maybe with his mom or with me or with his school or smoking or drugs. Anything. I always use that moment to teach him a lesson, and he appreciates it. So we have to speak. We have to, in order to create awareness. I talk about my daughter all the time, every opportunity that I get, especially when people ask me about Kennedy Kids Foundation, or they see the band on my hand or the life hat that I wear. I use it as a moment to bring up what's happened in my life, and then I also use that as a moment to discuss how we've gone through helping others, how we've helped ourselves, and what they should do if it ever happens to them, or if they notice something, with a friend or a family member that's going through it. Ask them questions, talk about it. A lot of people don't like to mention the word suicide to kids. They don't even like, they think that if they mention it, that somehow the kids are going to think about doing it.
Hmm.
When that's totally wrong. You really have to discuss it with kids so that they understand what's happening when they're going through a tough time, or when they see their friends go through an emotional moment or depression, or say something that's alarming. You got to teach them the tools. And it doesn't matter how young they are. You got to teach them the tools, because it happens with young kids. It happens with teenagers. And it could be something that fosters or manifests within their life that may have started at 10 years old and now it's coming out at 15, 16 years old. And if you would have discussed it with your child at 10 years old, they would have been able to talk to their parents or talk to a close friend as they're living their life, and have been able to come out the other side better, and with more knowledge, rather than not say it to your kids, not discuss it with your kids, and then they just go through life, you know, keeping it inside, keeping the hurt inside, and then it becomes a bigger problem later on. So, talking about it is extremely, extremely important, Kat. And I don't know if that's something that I don't know how old your son is, or, if that's something you
Yeah.
plan on doing, or, I
I
know,
think it's sorry, but I think that it's amazing that you have the courage to speak up. Um, what you went through, it's so heartbreaking with your daughter, and you know everything that you said. I agree. I like mentioning earlier. I'm Latina. I come from Latina parents where we're taught you don't speak about anything.
right.
We're taught for so long the complete opposite. You don't speak about it. You don't, you judge things when things are different. You just toughen things out. And I think you know, things need to change so we can, keep growing as people, and change and do things that can help other people.
Right.
Because here, just listening to you, it just brought that back to me. I'm like, I was always taught, don't speak about certain things, don't speak about family, you know. And now that I'm a mother and hearing what you're saying, I'm realizing, to listen to your advice and have the conversation with my son.
Yes. Very important. So important. Not only is it important for your son, but your son may save his friend's life one day.
Yeah.
If you teach him, you started tattooing at 14 years old. Think about it. You started tattooing at 14 years old. It took you, that early. You found something that you loved. So by 18, right, you were at a whole different level mentally, you know, with your skill set. But if you started at 18, right, you wouldn't have been as far. So
True.
speaking to your son now, teaching him a lot of the tools and some of the signs, you know, but as he's growing, he's going to start to understand it differently as he's maturing, and he's going to be able to say, "Man, I appreciate my mom telling me, because at this moment, I feel this way. And I remember her telling me, if I feel this way, I should do this," rather than you never having that conversation with him. And then that comes and he doesn't know what to do with it. So he just keeps it inside. And then one day you come home and you see cut marks on his arm, on his
Yeah.
leg. And
Yep.
and that's from not knowing what to do, right? A
Yeah.
lot of
They
parents have
need.
gone through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
We.
very valid. That's definitely something that now I'm going to instill with my son, because yeah, that's not I never grew up with anybody talking to me about anything like this. And I remember being a little girl and dealing with stress and trauma, and now that I think about it, it would have helped if somebody would have talked to me about these things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you have a different um way, it sounds like, of approaching the conversation, because now you're educating yourself more, as you were saying, right,
Hmm.
on mental health and signs and symptoms and different things. And so it sounds like, you're in a great place to really have that conversation with your
Yeah.
son.
Yeah. I lost my daughter 2.5 years ago. And, Kat, I didn't know any of this. So it took me to lose my daughter to learn the education of mental health. And I'm still learning. But before then, I was like you, Kat, just from black man growing up in a black family. Really, everything that is told to us is really, don't, keep it in, be tough, and it's all wrong, especially as times have changed,
Hmm.
right? As times have changed and the internet has become such a big a big influence on our kids and their lives, social media. Now you better talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, Kat, someone
Somebody.
on social media is going to be teaching your kids something you don't want them to learn. So it's best to talk about it so that they understand the warning signs, what's out there, what affects their mental health, what affects, what their friends are doing, the influence of their friends. It's extremely, extremely important. And, my goal is to continue to do things like this podcast and help spread the message, and have Misty, my partner, and Bailey, our other host who couldn't make it. Our job doing this podcast is just to bring information to people that are willing to listen. And you have come on and talked to us, and we are very appreciative and heard a lot of information from you. And I'm thankful that you came to. I could tell, Kat, that you're still a little guarded, and this is still very brand new for you. But
Yeah.
I applaud you for taking a step forward. And
Yeah.
I encourage you to talk to your son. I
Yeah.
encourage you to have those special moments with him, because you will reassure that whatever is supposed to happen in his life that was coming, you will reassure that it will not come, because you're stopping it. You are making the move now to stop it. And it will educate him to maybe pass the message from you to his friends.
Yeah.
So we're thankful.
Yeah, thank you. And as we get closer to, I can't believe we've already been chatting for almost an hour now, but as we get, the time goes so fast. I have so many questions, but kind of to go full circle here, we've talked a lot about your story and supporting teens and what you've done for your own mental health and wellness and how you're trying to balance everything. And again, really understanding that sometimes you're just not going to get it all right every single day when
Mhm.
everything's not going to be 100 every day, right? Like you're going to probably drop the ball somewhere, and that's just so realistic and so real. And I want to thank you for sharing that. And then I want to ask if there's anything else that you want to share in case somebody out there has a loved one who might be struggling with mental health. I mean, you've certainly learned a lot about mental health, but you've also learned a lot about how to support someone who's struggling with a mental illness or some kind of serious mental health issue. So is there anything else that you want to share about that, like how someone
And,
can support somebody else and then what they should do for themselves to support them as a caregiver as well, right? Because there's
and
two sides to that. You're supporting the other
yeah.
person, but then you still got to figure out how do you take care of all that overwhelm yourself too.
And also, Kat, part B to that question that she asked is, what would you tell a young lady that wants to get into your business, that wants to be a tattoo artist, and kind of what would you tell them so they don't go through some of the same hurdles you've gone through?
Wow, that's two very different topics.
Yeah,
Whichever one
I'll
you want to
answer both.
speak to.
yeah,
So first of all, I think that I have one very important comment to say, and is I encourage everyone or anyone listening to this to please stop judging mental health. If you see someone, it doesn't have to be such a close loved one,
right,
but if you see anybody struggling with mental health, find sympathy and empathy in your heart, because even though you may not understand it, or it's not a priority in somebody's life to understand it, it is something that affects hugely other people. And I think that we need to have more sympathy and empathy with each other.
yeah,
I think that
Amen to
that's
that.
major. And I say that because I feel deeply that I was one of those people that did not understand
Mhm.
until I saw my husband and everything that he battled with his mental health journey. Second part was hard, was one, I had this whole idea of what mental health was, and I had to very fast educate myself what the reality of it was so I could help him. Because if I kept with the same mentality that I had, I was not going to be able to help him get through this tough time.
right.
And Anthony is the most amazing man I have ever met.
He is.
He is a beautiful person. So when I saw him kind of slowly going into this hard time, it was very frustrating to me, because it goes to what I said earlier, which is I always go and ask God, why?
Mhm.
Why is this happening to us? Like, we're good people. What, and then you take things personal, and you don't have time for that. It's not personal. We don't know the answers to everything, but I do have my faith in God, and I said, please give me the wisdom and the tools that I need to help Anthony, because he's such an amazing man, and I saw him really suffering through all of this. And like I said, I had very little education on what mental health was. I didn't know where to go online, to be honest. I didn't know who to ask, because this is something that that so many people still don't understand and treat so differently because they don't
Yeah.
understand when it's such a sensitive situation that's happening. And
Right.
second, I didn't know how to like, you're helping someone, you want, I want to be a rock so my husband can lean on me on his tough times, but I also need to find out how I can be that strong rock myself when
Right.
I'm also feeling emotions
Right.
and frustrations. So that was it was very hard, and I think I always, now when I talk about it, I tell people, if you see someone that, for example, hurt their leg and they're in crutches and they're about to exit a door, the first thing that we do is we're like, oh my God, let me help them because they hurt their leg, they're in crutches. But
Right.
when it's somebody battling with mental health, I feel like as society we deal with it so much different.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to judge and somebody's already dealing with a hard time, and we don't, there's not that much education on it. um a lot of what I saw was that made things worse was how little education there was for other people, including police, including medical staff. I
Yeah.
saw medical staff, you know m- my husband, he's 6'4", he's a big guy,
Right.
and it's very intimidating to see someone that big going through something. And
Right.
I've seen medical staff like give the wrong doses of medication because they didn't
Wow.
know.
Right.
And so it's just,
Wow.
it gets like an all around full circle of just
Right.
how so many things take into effect. And
And the police show up, and the first thing they see is a big dude. They pull their
Yeah.
guns.
Yeah.
They
yes.
get in their defensive mode, instead of assessing the situation.
Oh yes, like I said, I saw with my own eyes not only how little I knew about it, but how little anybody around knows about it, and how because they don't know about it, they just react defensively.
Right.
And because he was such a tall big guy, you know they they did a little tougher than they should have.
Right.
And me knowing him and who he really is, I just want to protect him and
Right.
help him through that.
Yeah.
So I would.
The police tend to come in, you know, with guns blazing when most of the time it's just somebody going through a mental health situation, and they you know they either think, instead of assessing the situation, the first thing they think is this guy's on drugs, right? Or listen, this guy is just attacking someone, so the first thing they do is want to pull out their gun or be very aggressive, instead of just calming the situation down through using some of the tools of conversation. And it's sad, but hopefully, through these type of platforms and the awareness and talking about it, hopefully we slowly change the way people approach mental health, especially with someone that's going through it right in front of them.
There definitely needs to be change. I think there needs to be more training
Yeah.
um, for it, in the police department, in with medical staff. And I think that mental health should be something that has more education for youth, because why did it take me till I was in my 30s to really understand all the things that I had to cope with for so long? When, if, like how you mentioned earlier, if I'm 15 years old and there's a course or program or something, or a way where there's more education, I could have understood it sooner. And maybe by understanding it sooner, I could have been more sympathetic to people that probably crossed my path battling with their own battles, and I was dismissive through. Why did it take
Yeah.
for me to see someone that I love so deeply and so close to me going through it? Like, I wish I would have had that education and
Before.
opened my eyes to it from a young age.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, this goes back to that gem of the day. You're either learning from someone or you're learning by failing, or however you beautifully said it, right?
Right. Right.
So you're either learning by making those mistakes or you're learning by education. And when it comes to mental health, I'm 100% on your page that we need more of the education part and not kind of like it's like a secondary, if you learn it, you learn it type of a way that we've been treating it for so long. And then the other piece that I want to comment on that is my husband's a big guy too. He's 6'2". So not quite 6'4", but he's considered a big guy, especially here in Miami, right? That's a big guy. So, but I, aside from like physical stature, I think when you were talking about the judgments that people pass, when we look at somebody that is like a big guy or a big person, judgmentally, we tend to be like, they can't be sad, they can't have problems, they can't go through mental illness because they're a big, tough, imposing, strong, person. And I think I talked about this on a previous episode, one of our earlier episodes, but I had that discussion with my husband once. Like I was getting on him about something, and he's like, just because I'm a big guy, it doesn't mean that I don't feel something. You know what I mean? Like, what do you
Right.
do? Like we
I
got into like
remember.
this whole thing. Yeah, so because size has nothing to do with emotion, size has nothing to do with mental health and or illness or
They do
whatever it
get
is.
treated differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think as we're educating people on the show to sort of think about what you were saying of stop judging, when we're thinking about judging people, but also just really thinking of like wholly how you're doing it, right? Am I judging this person right now because they're big and I think they should have like a handle on this, or I'm judging this person because of this or that, instead of just this is a human being.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Robert, and then to answer your second question, my advice for any young woman, not only looking to become a tattoo artist, but any young woman, any young boy looking to be successful in life, my advice, and I tell this a lot to my apprentices, is to me, what makes somebody successful is someone who didn't give up when it got hard.
Right.
That to me is what takes people to another level. Like
Yeah.
anything that you decide to do, whether it's tattooing, playing football, sports, any career, you're going to face challenges. And those challenges, people tend to kind of get discouraged by challenges and give up, certain things and think, oh, because it didn't work out today, or because I made this big loss today, this is not for me. I
Right.
think if you're truly passionate about something, don't give up when it gets hard. Keep pushing.
That's good. I also want to add, don't chase the money, chase happiness. You
Yes.
chase happiness,
Ooh.
the money will come. You
That's
chase,
also a very valid point.
yeah,
That's another thing that I teach, because I never said to myself, I'm going to be this great tattoo artist and be super rich. Like
right,
money was never,
right,
has never been, I've never done something with thinking the money. I thought of it more the passion of wanting to do a good job at it. And the money flowed with it from the hard work that I poured into what I did. But definitely do things from a place of love and passion.
right,
It makes you happy.
Yeah, people can feel that too, right? They feel that
right,
energy. They feel when you're passionate about something and you really care about the work that you're putting out there when you're
Oh,
connecting with
there's a
somebody, right?
energy doesn't lie. There's a huge difference.
Mhm.
Even when I
yeah,
go and do things, I can tell when someone, is doing something. When they pour, just the other day, that I went to go get my wedding nails done. And the girl, once I told her to wear my wedding nails, she like, I can tell by her energy, she just really wanted to give me these beautiful special nails for my special day. And you
yeah.
feel that.
You
And
feel it.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
work comes out from that.
yeah.
And I've
Those
seen
are
people,
special nails.
I've
Special
seen
nails.
I've seen people enter the tattoo industry saying, I want to be a tattoo artist because tattoo artists make all this money. And
Um,
those artists, they don't go very far,
Right, right.
because that's just not how it's done. Art is something that you feel.
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
Mhm.
that's
Well,
absolutely.
Tattoo Baby, it was great having you on. I'm
Yeah.
so I'm so excited for this episode and all the information you gave us. I really appreciate you and I love you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I learned a lot today from you, Robert. Um, I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. So we always like to so thank you for that. And Robert, yeah, that was like you guys had a really special moment on this show, which I was glad to kind of
Yes.
be a fly on the wall for. It was super so awesome. It gives you so much to think about, you know,
Well,
and
her
I
husband's
have a
special to me as well, you know?
yeah, yeah, no, I know Anthony is you guys clearly have a bond as well. So
Yeah.
and you can just see like you can see I could see like his soul, how beautiful it is when we spoke with him. And then
Yes.
Tattoo Baby, same thing with you. Like we're talking to you, and before you were somebody I saw on reality TV and Instagram, and now I'm like, oh, her soul is like illuminating, like just
Thank
amazing.
you,
You can
Misty.
really feel that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, as we close out the show, I have a couple reminders, but one last question that we always like to ask our guests is when things are, you're in a moment where maybe you're not having the best day and things are kind of hard for you. And I know you said you try to approach it like, okay, I'll wake up tomorrow and do better. But like, what are some things that you do? Like, the top three things that you do to boost your mood, maybe when things are not going so hot?
Drawing is one of them. I
Drawing.
explained earlier. So art is an outlet for me. Sometimes I'll get my little iPad and draw. Sometimes, I just say, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna lay on the couch and take a moment and kind of just block my mind from everything.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I keep getting a call, and I kind of what I like to do sometimes because I have so many things in my head is I kind of just block it all out, and
Right.
then I could think clearly. It's like even like an art or a tattoo when you're working on a painting for too many hours, you start to not see it as clear as when you if you
Hmm.
take a step back for a few minutes, sometimes an hour or two, and you come back to that painting, you see it in a whole different other light. And I guess that's the approach I take with everything. I just give it a pause and I come back to it when I'm re-energized and I can see it better for what it is.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. Cool. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we share some of our favorite resources for mental health as we close out?
Tell us a little, tell the viewers, Tattoo, a little bit about, where they can find you,
Oh my
what
gosh,
you're
how did I forget
doing.
that? Yes.
Yes.
That's,
I'm pretty easy to find.
yeah.
You can I have an Instagram account, it's called at Tatu Baby. I have all my information there. Anybody who's interested in booking a tattoo session with me, you just send me an email. My email's on my bio. You can follow me on TikTok, Tattoo Baby Official. And I'm usually in the shop in Miami or here in Tampa, so
And
you can always call the shop.
you're also you're also painting now, selling paintings that, Anthony told us about. Tell us a little bit about the paintings and how people can buy them.
So I started painting when I bought my first home and I saw how much paintings were and I was like, I could try and do this myself.
Yeah.
It was that definitely was not a life goal, but it very rapidly became another big passion of mine and life goals. Then I realized how much of a different outlet it was to paint and I started painting more and every year I like to reflect on what I want to accomplish in life. And that's my one of my new goals is I want to have my own art gallery show and sell my paintings. So it's something I'm working on. Like said earlier, balancing all the stuff in life, but that I have to do. But I'm working on it. I have a few paintings, and we just recently sold two paintings. My
Awesome.
first two
Oh,
paintings that I sell,
yay.
and we'll go from there.
That's so
Awesome. Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that's awesome.
so how in demand are I mean maybe asking for selfish reasons, but how in demand are you? Like how far do your appointments go out? I know some artists you're booking like a year or more in
So
advance.
I usually do 6 months in advance.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
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 That's not too bad.
She's a celebrity.
Jesus, no, I'm impressed that it's only 6 months. I'm thinking she's got like a 5-year wait list.
6 months is a
No,
long
so what
time.
I do is I won't book past 6 months because we don't know what we're gonna be doing. I don't know so I used to book myself a year in advance and then I would want to go somewhere or do something and I couldn't because I am very
uh,
professional with my
Yeah.
word. So
You
I
gotta,
never move my
yeah.
appointments. So what I decided to do was just I do a 6 month block list. So I'll book
Right.
for 6 months and then just do a waiting list and then
Yeah.
move on
smart.
from there.
You can't work. You can't. What's the saying? you can't live to work. You got to work to live.
There you go.
There you go. So that's
There you
that.
go. All right. Well, thank you. I know we keep trying to wrap it up, but we keep getting in more awesome conversations. So, but with that, I want to say thank you so much and remind anybody out there, if you are struggling, please dial the 988 crisis prevention line. It is a free hotline that is confidential. It is available to anybody. So please make sure you use that line, put it in your phone, share it with your friends and family. Of course, if you're in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. And of course, head over to kennedykids.org. We have a resources tab there with just a ton of different places where you can get more mental health education or support. So we would appreciate if you go check that out, get yourself just a little more education, as we were talking about really the theme today. That's a great place to start. And also, please like, subscribe, share, and review. Help us get this super, super important message in front of more people. And Tatu Baby, thank you again. You are amazing.
It was great to meet you, Lucy. Have a great talking.
Thank you, Kat. You were awesome.